What's going on, everybody? So, I started a couple of weeks ago. I started the short-winded segment where I have on a guest and I kind of talk to the guest a little bit. And then they ask me 20 questions, which I have 5 minutes to respond to. I know I can get long-winded. I know I have this desire to give an explanation as to answers that I give and opinions that I have, and it's really hard for me to just give an answer and then just leave it at that. But that's sort of what it forces me to do. And in the first episode, I had Scott from Ranger Studios on, and he set the tone with some really, really great questions. And just at the buzzer, I was able to finish all 20 questions, which I was actually quite proud of. Now, there was some feedback on it. And one of the things that was brought up is somebody said, why don't you ask any questions to your guest? Why are you only having questions asked to you? And I'm like, I don't know. That's a great question. Maybe I should do that. So I'm going to do things a little bit differently this time. My guest, when he comes on, is going to get 5 questions from me without a timer, so that you can kind of get to know a little bit more about the guest in case it's not a channel or a person that you're familiar with. And it's also an opportunity for me to get to know them a little bit better as well. So I'm going to have 5 questions for him. And then afterwards, he's going to ask me the 20 questions that I have up against the timer. Now, the first time I finished all of the questions, so there was no issue. I don't know what's going to happen because at some point, knowing me, I'm going to run out of time. And when I run out of time, how I handle that, I'm not really sure. Am I just going to not answer the rest? I don't know how that will work. So we'll see if I can get them all in today. My guest today is Iconic Al. Iconic Al has a great channel. If you're not a subscriber, I recommend it. And he does a really thorough job with his videos. He recently finished a top player countdown. He had a lot of great guests on who helped with that and participated with that. He does lots of lists. He has a great collection. He's super knowledgeable about cards. He's been collecting for a really long time. Now, I've never met him. So I have friends that know him. I have friends that have met him. I've watched his channel for a while. But I personally have never actually spoken with Al. So I'm excited for this because I'm about to go in and record this with him. And it'll be my first opportunity to meet him. But I can tell you, just from watching his channel, I know I'm going to like him. And I know that the things that he has to say in the questions that he asks and the responses to my questions, I have a feeling are going to be fantastic. So let's take a look at Iconic Al.
All right, so I am really excited. Here is the guest I've been talking about. This is Iconic Al. And, Al has a great channel. In fact, some of my good friends are huge fans of your channel, Al. And, you recently did a big top player countdown, and you did some stuff where you invited some guests, other YouTube content guys to do participate in that, which I thought was awesome. Tell us if somebody's not familiar with your channel, kind of tell what are the sorts of videos that you do. Tell us a little bit about it and how it started.
Thanks so much, Greg. This is such an honor to be on your channel. I've been watching your channel for a couple of years now, and I really enjoy your channel. I think of you almost as like a workout buddy because I listen to your longer videos while I'm working out. I just take you down to the gym with me, and I put my earbuds in, and I go through my workout, and you're there with me. So I appreciate you spotting me and being my gym buddy for the past couple of years.
That's awesome.
But it's an honor to be on. And for my channel, it's basically just follows my collecting journey and I try to encapsulate my collecting ethos, what guides my collection, how I keep my collection focused, and how I think of players. And it helps me to prioritize and put guardrails on my collection. So I'm not just going out there and buying everything, every shiny thing that I see, because that's, I think that's a problem for a lot of collectors. They just kind of don't have that focus. They go out and they see something, they buy it. I've tried over the past 30 years to get to this point to where I'm very focused, I'm very narrow. I have a good, let's say, hierarchy and decision-making process with what I'm buying. And it's thoughtful and curated. And so what I view my collection is as hopefully a well-curated collection of baseball's most essential figures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I kind of formulated this top 100 list, and I've done countdown videos outlining that top 100 because it really helps to guardrail and focus my collection. And
Mm-hmm.
that's most of the videos I make to this point have been countdown videos outlining why each one of these players matters to me and why they should matter, to most people, because it's sort of iconic means you matter. That's kind of like most people's idea of iconic is important or figures that matter in some realm for being outstanding in what they did or being widely known. And so I tried to make that the backbone of my channel. And now it's just kind of free form. I'm just letting it go. And just kind of like when I get a grading order back, or when I'm going to a show, or when I'm hanging out, or when I'm having a thought about the hobby, I'll just make kind of an impromptu video on it. So I'm looking forward to being a little bit less structured with my channel going forward.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for having me on.
Oh yeah, I mean it's my pleasure. I've watched your channel for quite a while as well, and I like you recently did a video of some relic cards that you sent in actually to Beckett, and I actually agree with you. I think a lot of those relic cards kind of do better in Beckett holders, believe it or not. And one of them was a Josh Gibson.
There it is.
Which I have a feeling that card is doing really well right now. He's kind of quickly gotten more attention than he had previously, probably closer to what he deserves. But that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I mean, like guys like Josh Gibson, and there were some other obviously really big names in that PSA reveal or Beckett reveal of those relic cards. If you haven't seen that, check out that video for Al. So let me say this: the last video I did, the first video I did, where it was my short-winded, where we're trying to work on me with my own guardrails, not with my collecting though, but with how long I go. And I know that I go a long time, but I also feel like that is a niche of the channel, is that it's long. And I try to present it in a way where you can just listen. You're at work, you're working out, I have a mail carrier who said, hey, I put my earbuds in and for an hour I listened to it. So I think that that's one of actually the strengths of my channels, but I also realize that it's not for everyone.
Right.
So this is an attempt to do that. And reach the people who don't want to listen to me that long. And as I'm saying that, I hear myself rambling. But so what I didn't do with Scott from Reindeer Studios, who's awesome, obviously, and you can see the logo at the top right-hand corner right now of the screen that he made for the channel. But I didn't ask him any questions. I just had him ask me questions. And a comment in the video, which again I read and respond to every comment I get, was, Greg, why didn't you ask him anything? And I'm like, I don't know. That's a great question. And so I decided I should. So what I'm going to do first is a little bit of a switch to this. Is before you ask me my 20 questions that I have 5 minutes to answer, I've got 5 questions for you. And the 5 questions for you are, you don't have a timer. So if they take you 20 seconds, they take you 3 minutes each, whatever, I want you to answer it how you best feel. And I also want to do this because I want people to kind of get to know you a little bit better than if you were just asking me stuff. All right?
I'll try to be as brief as I can because the title of the episode is still short-winded, so I'll do my best.
Okay. So my first question for you, and I've got 5. What is the one card that you don't have that you realistically hope to acquire at some point?
Card, I would say, I've always wanted the 1940 play ball shoeless Joe Jackson. It's at the top of my price range. I think it's one of the last pre-war shoeless Joe cards that I could reasonably acquire in a low grade, maybe in a 1.5 or a 2 or something. It would be one of those top of the budget cards for me. But I do want a pre-war shoeless Joe card at some point, and I don't have right now a representation from the 40 play ball set. I've had multiple play ball cards in the past, but right now where my collection is now, I think that would fill my 40 play ball void and my shoeless Joe void. So that would be a card that would be like, yeah, top of the budget for me, but I would love to get one someday.
See, and it's interesting as you say that, and here I go again. But as you say that, I think we're probably similar in age. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm 44.
I just turned
Am I
42.
Okay.
So,
So we grew up with, Field of Dreams,
mhm,
and we grew up with Eight Men Out.
right.
And so part of our childhood and being baseball guys was seeing those movies. So Shoeless Joe is obviously a well-known guy, but to our generation specifically, he was embedded into us really early on. And
Yeah,
I think that we have a generation of people who are coming of age financially that are like, Shoeless Joe is like this iconic guy. And I think I think
absolutely.
it's I think it's a great choice. All right. Second one. Of all the YouTube videos that you have done, which episode do you think is your best? And I'm going to link that a link to that video in the description down below.
Okay. I really liked the episode I did where I kind of polled YouTube, and this was back when I didn't have hardly any subscribers. So the polls were probably not the most reliable because we're talking about like 50 or 60 people answered these polls when I posted them. But I basically, every few days, I would post a poll on YouTube and say, who was the greatest second baseman of all time? And then I would give 4 choices of like the top 4 second basemen. And then I did the same thing with third base, same thing with first base, same thing with shortstop. I went through all the positions: right-handed pitcher, left-handed pitcher, relief pitcher, catcher. And based on the results of those polls, I put out a video, the GOAT at each position. And
Mm,
so, and then I showed a card of mine and from my collection of that GOAT, or the greatest of all time at that position. And I went
mhm,
through methodically each position, is showing the poll results saying, oh, 86% of you thought that Willie Mays was the greatest center fielder of all time.
mhm.
And then I showed my favorite Willie Mays card. And so I went through all the positions like that. And I thought that was a pretty good video. I like that one. And it was
Yeah.
kind of interactive. And that was the cool part, is I was able to poll at least the people that were looking at my poll and voted. And we got pretty clear consensus on most positions. And it wasn't any big surprise, really. Left-handed pitcher is really the only one where I was like, okay, I'll go with the poll, but I don't really agree with it.
Do you remember who it was?
Yeah, I mean, it was overwhelmingly Sandy Koufax, which you can make an argument, a peak argument for Sandy Koufax, but that very same argument falls apart when you look at Lefty Grove's numbers, because Lefty Grove had a better peak and it was much longer.
Mhm.
And also Randy Johnson had a much better career. So I would put quite a few left-handed pitchers, at least Grove and Johnson, ahead of Koufax at
And
left-handed pitchers.
wasn't the thing about Grove, he had like 100 wins in the minors or something before he even hit the
Yeah,
majors. Like,
yeah,
so it's like he didn't even have the opportunity for whatever reason to play
right,
in the majors as long. But
right.
okay, I look forward to seeing that. How long ago would you say you posted that one?
That was probably over a year ago. That was probably
Okay,
like maybe year and a half ago, but it's called the GOAT at each position.
okay, awesome. Again, I will post that in the description down below if you want to check that out. All right, next. What is the one card in your collection that is most meaningful?
Meaningful. There's a 1959 Topps early win that my brother gifted me about a year and a half ago. And it carries minimal monetary value, but it was the first vintage card that I ever remember owning. We found it in the bottom of a box in my grandma's attic, and it was creased in half. And at some point, it came apart. Literally, the crease had been bending and bending and bending for so long that at some point, when I was like 13 years old, it actually came apart into 2 pieces. And I don't know whatever happened to that card. It got lost to time. And then like a couple of years ago, my brother gifted me an SGC graded copy of that early win card and mailed it to me on my birthday. And I was like, it almost made me cry. I was like,
Oh,
I
wow.
remember this being the first vintage card I ever owned, and thought that it was such an interesting thing because it looked so much different than the cards I was collecting from the 90s. And that was kind of a magical card. And then to have it again, it was pretty great. So that card means a great deal to me, even if it doesn't carry much in the way of monetary value. He's still a Hall of Famer. He's a 300 game winner. So he's a significant player, but early win is not highly collected.
And to people who don't know you, you actually come from a family of collectors, right? Like your dad is a big collector, and so you kind of get to share that with them. Do they go to any of the big shows? Like, will they go to the National with you, or will they go to the, I don't know where they live, but to some of the local shows with you?
I grew up going to shows with my brother and my dad. We'd go to shows, many weekends. I mean, maybe one weekend a month we'd go to a show in Pittsburgh. But my dad goes on vacation with my mom. We have a summer vacation that we always take the week of the National. So he won't be at the National this year. My brother, I don't think he's going to make it to the National this year. He has a YouTube channel of his own called High Pop Professor. So I think he probably will be going to nationals in the future because he's gotten deeper into the hobby in the last year or two. But I've enjoyed going to shows with them starting when I was probably 10 years old.
Very cool. Yeah, I have a very similar background as well.
Yeah, I know your dad is a big collector too.
Yeah. Okay. If you met a new collector and could only recommend one YouTube channel, which one would you recommend?
Wow. I might recommend yours, to be honest. I think because it's more of a forum. It's not really it's more of a forum for discussion. So if someone wanted to learn about various sets, things that are being talked about in the hobby, something that's topical, something that's not topical, you put out content often, and that content is thoughtful. And then I think it brings in a lot of opinions and a lot of different people.
Well, that's kind of you.
I know that's not what you were looking for. I'm sorry,
if present company was excluded, what's another channel?
Maybe just a channel like the Mangini collection, something like that, where you're just seeing a lot of cards. He's showing you lots of cards all the time. And so if you're new to the hobby, you haven't seen a lot, and you just want to see cards, then that would be a good channel just to kind of get cards in front of you on a daily basis, literally daily basis.
Yeah. Same with kind of like a Chris from Missouri, where he shows lots of stuff and talks about the cards, and it would be a great place to start to build your knowledge base. I think that's a good one. All right. Last question for you, and then we'll put me on the clock here in a second. 10 years from today, who is the one player that you think will see the biggest increase in their card values?
It might be Josh Gibson. I mean, it might be, trying to think. Or it will be a guy like Mookie Betts, who right now is tracking to be a Derek Jeter type of player, a top 30, maybe in that top echelon of all-time players. I would say in the old-time vintage pre-war world, Josh Gibson, and then in the more modern world, Mookie Betts would be my two picks.
Good choices. Now, if you are watching or listening, in the comments below, tell us what you think about those picks, but also tell us what you think about the answer, both modern and vintage. I think it's always a fun thing to talk. I mean, I get a lot of pushback whenever I do a video about values, because people are like, why do you care so much about values? We're collectors. And I'm like, it's just part of the deal. It's just part of the hobby. And it's also, as collectors, what the values are dictate what we can buy.
Exactly.
So if you're not tracking the values, I mean, if you don't care about the values, then why would you ever buy a rookie card? You know, why would
Right.
you, if you're not, if you don't care about the values, then you should want everything. And I had somebody say not that long ago on my channel in a comment, I hope all cards go way down in value. I hope they plummet, because then I can buy cards and I don't care what they're worth because I'm never going to sell them. And I was like, man, what an interesting perspective. I mean,
Sure.
I don't want my house value to go down so I could go buy a bunch of rental properties, but I don't know. It was interesting. So, all right. So now you've got 20 questions lined up for me.
Yep.
And we were talking about this before we came on, and you said, you know, it's only about 15 seconds per question. And I reminded you and myself, and that includes the time it takes to read the question. So it's really not a lot of time. So
No.
I will tell you, in my first experience with this, I really, really struggled with not being able to explain myself. Just
Yeah.
saying an answer and then just letting go of it. It's so difficult for me. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and put the timer up here in just a second. And then I guess it'll be like Family Feud, where we just start going. All right.
All right.
So I am going to go ahead and start the timer now.
All right, Greg. What part of your collection brings you the most joy?
Oh, joy. The most joy. I get the most joy about the oldest cards because it allows me to better learn about the history of some of those players when I collect them.
Nice. Okay. One piece you'd like to acquire at the 2024 National.
A 48 Bowman Yogi Berra.
Good choice. What's the most you could ever justify spending on a single sports card?
I had a friend ask me this the other day, and
Sure.
his answer blew him away. My answer blew him away. I think $50,000.
Whew. All right.
I don't
Okay.
have it, but if I had it, that's what I would say.
Okay. Okay. Does it annoy you when someone refers to your channel as midlife crisis sports cards?
It doesn't annoy me. I find it funny. There
Okay.
actually is a Midlife Crisis Cards channel, which is in the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame, which I didn't know until about a year after I started my channel. It doesn't
Mhm.
annoy me. I kind of giggle.
Okay. That's fair. If you could only keep one card in your collection, which would it be?
Oh my gosh. I think I'd have to go with my 84 Fleer Update Roger Clemens that I got in a raffle when I was about 10.
Nice. Will there ever be a point where you're 100% content with the collection you have?
No, never.
Okay, one word answer. Fine. What size collection do you ultimately want to have? Is there a number of cards or a volume of space you envision?
That's a great question. I think about 100 cards. If I could get to the
Okay.
point where I consolidate to 100 cards that I really like, that's the number I think I can enjoy and would
Mhm.
make me somewhat satisfied. And then I would just start upgrading the 100, but keep it at 100.
Awesome answer. Um, what's your favorite pre-war set?
I have to go with the T206 set because of the history behind it and the colors
Mhm.
behind it and the players in it. But
Yeah.
I do love the 33 Gaudi a lot. And I know those are the two most popular, so that's a super boring answer. There's an N28 set
Oh yeah.
that I think is beautiful, but I would have to say the T206.
Yeah. And I know you like the ice cream cards too, like I do.
Yeah.
How many saved searches do you currently have on eBay? Roughly.
About a month ago, it was 8. Right now, it's about 30.
Okay. Do you see yourself more as a curator or an accumulator?
I think it's a curator. And I can't go into too much more. That's a great question, but I have to
Yeah,
leave it there because it'll open a can of worms.
that's its own episode.
Yeah.
Are you most likely to leave a card show with 10 $50 cards, 5 $100 cards, or 1 $500 card?
5 years, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it would have been 10 $50 cards. Now it would be 1 $500 card.
Okay. Do you consider certain items in your collection as stores of value?
In a weird way, I think we have to, but I don't want to think of them that way, but I could always trade them for other values that I now prefer.
Okay. How many items are you currently actively selling on eBay right now?
About 10.
Okay. Who is the greatest and most iconic swashbuckling pirate of all time?
A Blackbeard.
Yeah, yes. Good
Yeah.
answer. What's your biggest challenge as a collector?
Staying focused.
Most people, yeah. Do you track the monetary value of your collection in any way?
None, not at all.
Okay. Which of these Yankees would you put into the Hall of Fame? Don Mattingly, Roger Maris, Greg Nettles, all of the above, or none of the above?
He didn't include Thurman Munson, and I think I just hit my 5-minute mark. But
Okay.
I would say Don Mattingly of
Okay.
the options. How many
All right.
how many questions did we get through there?
We got through 17.
All right, let's do a 30-second bonus time
Okay.
because I want to hear your questions that you put effort into. And
All right.
I'm not being as short-winded as I need to. This is good for me because it's telling me,
Yeah.
Greg, you got a little carried away. You need to kind
No, I mean,
of tone it down.
I want to know all these. Like, the reason I put these questions together is because I actually want to know the answers to
Right.
these.
And I'm trying so hard to be brief. So,
Yeah.
all right. We'll do a 30-second bonus time. Go ahead.
Okay, I know you're a guy who doesn't sell cards he gets as a gift, but a friend gifts you a $500 card that you absolutely hate. It doesn't fit into your collection at all. Do you sell it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Who is your favorite garbage pail kid?
I mean, Adam Baum, but I will say I do have this one right here that I bought at a card show for my wife because my wife's name is Megan. So I do love the Muggin Megan because that's my wife's. But I got to go Adam Baum, which I have in a PSA 7.
Nice. And then the last one I have here is you can choose between 2 54 Topps Ernie Banks rookie cards. They're both equally beautiful eye appeal. One of them is graded in a 5, and the other one is an autographed copy with a beautiful autograph, but it's graded a 2.
Oh, I think the 5. That's brutal.
So it's a 5 or it's a 2 with a 9 auto, something like that.
I think I'm going to go with the 5. Now,
Okay.
now we'll say we're done, but let me explain that really quickly. I grew up in the same era as you, where so I'm cheating, and that's fine. But it's my show, so I'm going to cheat. But I grew up in the same era with you, where getting vintage cards signed was like a no-no, and
especially rookie cards.
And we were always told don't buy autographs because you don't know if they're fake. So I have this like PTSD in my brain, mostly not so much about getting them signed, but about them being fake, that even if they're authenticated by JSA or Beckett or PSA, I still have an amount of doubt in my mind. Like, I'm like, I think they're pretty good. I think that maybe 95% of the time they get it right. But there's still, I'm afraid I would have that card and I would feel like, well, what if mine's the 5%? So I would always have this uneasy feeling in my stomach. And with the PSA 5 or whatever it was, I would never feel that. I would never have that kind of twinge in my stomach when I'm looking at it. So I
Okay,
think that's why I got to go with the 5.
that's fair.
Well, I think that your questions were outstanding, and I think that I don't know if that's fun for you, but for me, it's
Oh
an
yeah,
absolute hoot to do it. So I hope that you at least smiled a few times as you were writing down your questions.
yes,
Um,
I giggled. Yes, I giggled.
there you
Um,
go, perfect. Um, and I will say again, if you're not subscribed to Al's channel, um, obviously he's a really good guy, and he puts a lot of thought and effort into his videos. His videos are polished. They are well thought out. They are well planned. There are details that go into them that, as a person who makes videos, that's time consuming stuff that I think that sometimes people maybe take for granted. But when I see a video and I watch one that has all of those little things in it that you do, I think it really stands out. And so I would highly recommend you subscribing to Al's channel and checking it out. I think that you'll really like it.
that means a lot, Greg. I feel the same way about your channel. I watched your video yesterday where you compared the values of, you went back to 2022, 2023, 2024, and tracked the values of vintage cards and how they've changed in various grades. That
Mhm.
is very time consuming, putting together charts of how grades of various cards act over time. So
Mhm.
believe me, I mean, you're doing a great service to this hobby. And
Well,
so I thank you for that.
that means a lot to me too. And a lot of people have said, like, why do you spend so much time on your videos? Like you can see a lot of people when they do their videos, and I'm not hating on anybody, but you can, like, see their arm coming down after they've hit record, and I'm like, you could just edit that out. But for a lot of people, it's not about editing it out. It's about
Yeah.
just being that authentic in, I'm going to share my thoughts. Look, I'm literally hitting play and now I'm recording it. And I totally get that. And there's definitely something to the authenticity of that I totally respect. For me, I enjoy geeking out on numbers. And I
Hmm.
enjoy geeking out of, when I mention a card, throwing a picture of the card on the screen so people that aren't familiar with it can see the card and can go, oh, if they're not familiar with the card, now be familiar with the card. Like, maybe it's the teacher in me that feels the need to give details to the explanation, and maybe that's partly why I'm long-winded, but, like, that's part of the fun for me. So yeah, I mean, if I have a video that's 45 minutes long, I'll spend 3 or 4 hours on it, like, for
Yeah,
sure.
I can
And
relate.
yeah, I know. And there are other people who have 45-minute videos that it takes them 45 minutes and 7 seconds, and that's
Hmm.
okay too. But I just enjoy doing that other part, and I think that it's just part of how I want to present my videos. So
Yeah.
you're the same way. If that's something that you like, Iconic Al is a channel that you definitely want to check out. So I appreciate you coming on. I'm trying to keep these shorter. We're right at about 30 minutes or so. Um, but thanks for coming on, seriously. And it's been fun getting to know you. This is the first time we've ever talked.
I know
This
it's
is the
long
first time we
overdue.
ever talked. So
Yeah.
it's like I'm meeting you and sharing you at the same time. So very
Yeah.
cool.
And I just want to tell you, I do have a surprise for you at the National.
Uh-oh.
I was at a local Denver card shop about a week ago, and I found something that I was like, wow, this is for Greg. And so I picked it up
Oh,
for you. And I have it here, but I'm not going to show it. I'm going to wait till the National. But I do have something really cool for you.
well, that's
In,
super sweet of you. And I can't even tell you how much fun going to Strongsville was, and getting to actually meet a lot of these guys I've gotten to know. And there are so many people I didn't meet at Strongsville that I'm looking forward to meeting in Cleveland again, in Cleveland at the National. Like, I'm really excited about it. It's like a high school reunion, but it's actually people I want to see.
yeah,
you
I
know,
had the FOMO watching those videos. I had the FOMO. I was like, man, I wish I was in Strongsville right now.
I can't. I don't see me ever missing Strongsville. I might miss nationals. I don't
Mhm.
see me ever not going to Strongsville. It was too much fun to miss that. So I would encourage you to go next year. I know
Yeah.
it's tough when it is. It's a short. It's you don't have as many days to pick from, all that. But man, it was fun.
Yeah, it's really not that tough because I grew up in Pittsburgh. My parents still live in Pittsburgh, so it's not that bad. I could just fly into Pittsburgh, take one of their cars, drive to Strongsville, go to the show. I wouldn't need to rent a car. So yeah, I could definitely make an effort to go next year, and I think I will.
Yeah, cool. Cool. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on. And everybody who's listening, let us know your thoughts on those questions down below, both for me and for Al. And thanks for watching.
Thank you, Greg.